Welcome to Cop to Corporate. I'm Sam, your podcast host, and this is the podcast where we unpack one of the most challenging career pivots out there, moving from the structured, high-stakes world of law enforcement into the fast-moving, strategy-driven world of business and entrepreneurship. Today's guest is Matt Seeber, former Albany PD turned attorney, real estate investor, and president of a construction company. Matt is bringing a unique story to Cop to Corporate, and I'm excited for him to share it with you all. So, Matt, welcome to Cop to Corporate.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks, Sam. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, of course. So tell us a little bit about your law enforcement journey. What got you into LE? What kept you there? Let's hear about it.
Sure. So I was out of high school. I went to the Marine Corps from 2007 to 2011. I then went to Penn State afterwards. My brother was similar path. He was in the Marine Corps, and then he went to Albany PD once he separated from the Marine Corps. So we're from Albany, or I'm from Albany, right outside of it. When I talk to my brother, and you separate from the military, you're looking for that brotherhood and that fraternity. So in speaking to my brother and other guys, it looked like Albany PD was a really great fit, right? It's a kinetic, fast-paced environment. I didn't want to sit at a desk all day. I wanted to still have some excitement and wanted to be with like-minded individuals who are proactive individuals, all the things, in a paramilitary organization that would translate well to skill sets that I'd already acquired. So I decided to join Albany PD, went to the academy in 2013, but really it was that search for brotherhood and, family.
Did you know that you wanted to be in the Marine Corps, to be a police officer when you were growing up?
No, not at all. I mean, it wasn't like there's a lot of guys from the military who go to the police afterwards, but it wasn't, I had no idea leaving high school. I had no idea really leaving the Marine Corps what I wanted to do.
I think that a lot of people feel that way, and a lot of people do choose law enforcement after going into the military, which seems to be a pretty easy transition. And it's so cool that you followed in your brother's footsteps too. Did he appreciate that?
Yeah, he did. I think we had a great time. We actually were on the same squad for about a year and a half before he got made as a detective. But we still talk about the stories now. It was a great time.
That's so fun because you get so close to the people on your team or your squad. And so to be able to do that with actual family, then you have so much to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how long were you a police officer for?
So I was a police officer from 2013 to about 2021. So about 8 years. But I was active as a police officer for about 6 years. And then I was suspended for the last 2 years before I decided to separate.
Okay. So I know, like I said, you have a pretty unique story. So please just share whatever you're good with sharing, because I know that there are probably a lot of people who watch this who can relate to not necessarily leaving law enforcement because that's exactly what they want, because they're prepared for whatever is next afterwards. So are you willing to talk a little bit about what happened and why you ended up leaving police?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started, I was fortunate enough with Albany PD that the SWAT team was holding tryouts. So the SWAT team at Albany PD is it's a full-time team, but you perform your police duties, but you're on call 24/7. So you can have patrolmen, detectives, and then if there's an active call up, you go ahead and you're activated, whether you're on duty or off duty at the time. So I was fortunate enough my first year, they were holding tryouts. So I made it on the SWAT team in the first year, passed the NDOC course there. And then because of that, I was exposed to a lot of great training opportunities within the department and policing in general. So then you start kind of going through all the available schools, gathering all your certificates, become firearm instructor, OC, less lethal instructor, field trainer, Taser certified. I mean, all the courses that you kind of look for in LE, that opened and sped my progress through that pipeline. So then from there, I became a instructor at our academy with about 3.5 years on. I know a lot of people listening to this might be like a 3.5 year dude teaching recruits. and I was kind of with you at the time. It was just
Good
I
for
was the
you.
only one who put in for the job, so um, so I got it by default. But
Yeah,
that was
give
a really
yourself
great
some more
time.
credit.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, no, it was a great time. I did have a lot of skill sets to share. And so, your my career started progressing. I started to look at towards I was a midnight police officer. I'm midnight to 8 a.m. was my shift. I was able to go a couple other opportunities to work plainclothes details that were 3 to 4 months long, doing violent crime interdiction, just really stopping everything that moves in the city. Albany's pretty unique. We are upstate, but for people who might live in the bigger cities or might be New York City, we're kind of like what one precinct would be in, I'd say the Bronx or Brooklyn. We're about 300 cops. Now I think it's about 250, and we have two divisions, two precincts. So it's a smaller department, but the per capita crime is certainly there and high. So had a really great opportunity working closely with our narcotics unit and our criminal investigations unit, robbery homicide, doing investigations in plainclothes. And then I was looking towards making the next step in my career and become a detective. So our detective division is still the same rate as a patrolman, but it is, in essence, the promotion. They hold a review board where you go in, you interview, you answer questions. They look at your resume, and they ultimately decide based on how you perform in that review board if you're going to be selected for a slot. So, as I was studying for that next step in my career, that was when during a routine, what we would consider on midnights as a routine call for service, we were breaking up a loud party. This house had been we've been called to it maybe about 77 times in the last like 4 to 6 months. It was a problem house in the zone. I will say, in my defense, I had not been with the squad for the last couple months. I had known about this house on coming back. I was in a slower car, not in the uh, violent crime area neighborhood cars zones that I usually was in, but I was in a slower zone because I was studying for the review board. But we went over. We had all our probable cause set up. We'd already discussed with the local, the DA's office about our ability to make an actual arrest and not just issue, a citation for loud noise or a loud party. So we had grounds. We knew our game plan was to arrest this person, this individual, and try and start escalating the punishment for it because it was a huge neighborhood nuisance. I mean, whether you're in the ghetto or a nice area, I mean, people still are sleeping at night. And it was just beyond the bounds. They were operating as a late night uh, club, engaging in prostitution, drug sales, and it would go until about 4 or 5 a.m. So we rolled over. Uh, the squad was pretty deep. I think maybe 8 to 10 guys that night just for that one call. So we went over, and I, for our perspective, our precinct has about 12 to 13 people on shift at any given time. So about 85% of our squad rolled over to this car along with a supervisor. So we ended up having to force the door, make an arrest on him. We emptied out the party. Uh, as that proceeded with us spraying pepper spray and foggers, a couple isolated fights broke out on the street. One cop was punched in the face and had, blood was pouring out of him. But other than that, it was pretty much business as usual for breaking up a party. This was, man, early. It was about 2019, so it was pre George Floyd effect on policing, but not much sooner, about 5 or 6 months prior to the George Floyd incident. But I think most people can agree that that's about the time when the shifts were starting to happen pretty big in law enforcement. So our mayor, very non-supportive of police, very liberal, and this was her swing at making a stand on, she had been trying, our mayor, our elected representatives have been trying to bring in the police department to their control for a long time. But this was the time they took a swing. So because of that incident, and we wore all body cams, we did all our reports, we made our lawful arrest reports, everything was well documented. They went ahead and suspended four of us for that incident, citing failure to make reports, excessive or improper use of pepper spray, uh, anything that they could really throw. About 4 or 5 charges for each of us. none of which were anything to be concerned about. But given that, at the time, when I was called and told to report to, it was about 2 weeks later. I was actually at SWAT training, doing less lethal training with OC spray and everything else. And they called us in, and we went in, turned in my gun and badge. But at the time, that was when most guys know when there's discipline coming. Like sometimes it's like, hey, we need you to take a break for like a month or two while we let the public sentiment, cool down. Then we'll bring you back. But we knew that this one was going to be a long haul, and that the department and the city, the department was being driven by the city to actually make an example, whether it was proper or not. They were going to use us as an example. So I'll tell you, it was a big blow at the time. We had a couple administrative changes. We had the first police chief who wasn't from our rank and file. He was brought in from a suburb of Chicago to be our police chief. He doesn't know anyone. But at the time, I was on the SWAT team. I was an assistant squad leader. I had trained recruits. I had trained a SWAT team class. I was, constantly going to schools. I was looking at the next step in my career to become a detective with the criminal investigations unit, where I had a lot of friends there. My brother was there. And then all of a sudden, I'm having a good time with the SWAT team training. And then I get a phone call from my union president. And he's like, hey, you're coming to headquarters. You got to turn in your gun and badge. This is for the thing on First Street. I was like, okay, great. But after that meeting, that's when, we meet with the union attorneys and we're like, holy smokes. But yeah, it was and you can cut me off at any time here, but and redirect. But it was a really tough time. I mean, this was, Albany is small Albany. It's about 80 to 100,000 permanent residents. The commuter influx, because it's the capital city, it's about 250 during the day. But even the small towns surrounding it, where we grew up, the one paper is the Times Union, but we were on the front page of the Times Union for months afterwards. But we were on the front page for about a week straight. There's an article ran pretty much every single week. I had teachers from high school messaging me on Facebook or texting me and calling me, being like, oh, Matt, we thought you were so much better than this. And of course, what our department gave to the public was snippets of body cam that show cops bringing people in under arrest, right? Or kicking in a door, but they're not showing anything leading up to it. It's such selective footage just driven to drive a public narrative against us. And that's when we knew it was going to be the long haul. We'd have to go through arbitration. We'd have to fight for our jobs. The department sought termination on every single one of us. So, from 1 minute, I'm like, oh, hopefully I'm going to be a detective here in 4 to 6 weeks. And really start working on a new part of my career, to then being this villain. And I'm afraid to give people my name wherever I go, because I'm thinking that people are just going to think I'm some rights violating, racist cop. So it was like literally my entire identity was just completely stripped from me in a single day. I was married at the time. I'm not now. That definitely contributed to it, but I mean, it was tough. Even my own wife, my mom, they're like, geez, what's going on here? Why would you do that? Like, why would you kick in this door? Why'd you guys beat up these people? I'm like, well, let me tell you, it's 3:30 a.m. in the hood, in the most violent block of Albany, where 60% of all the murders, 60% of all the drug dealing goes down in a 1 block radius. You tell me how you'd like me to handle when we're emptying out a party and there's 50, 70 guys who all are criminals, and there's 10 cops, and they all want to fight us and do us harm. So in a second, it was like, everything I'd worked for in my life since I was 17 as a Marine, to being, I think I was 28 then, was just completely stripped away. And it was like, I don't even know if I was treading water at that time. I think I was just trying not to drown. But it really, that's what caused a refocus in my mentality. Before then, I had actually applied to law school while I was about 4 months prior, and I'd been accepted to Albany Law. But at the time, I was going to do it part-time. And my plan was to still work as a midnight detective and be able to go to law school during the day. As soon as I was suspended, I wouldn't say it was the first thing I did, but it was definitely one of the top things on my list. I called the Albany Law registrar and said, hey, I'm good to go full time. And so then I self-accelerated through the program. But even at law school, it was there was challenges. Petitions were raised against me. When students would find out. I mean, I didn't really make friends or try to make friends, but students would find out I was a cop. They'd Google me. They'd see this search result of Matt Seeber kicking in doors and beating people up. And they'd start a petition to have me expelled from school, saying that Albany law, I think the petition was, Albany law cannot say that Black Lives Matter as long as Matt Seeber is enrolled as a student here, and therefore should be expelled. Luckily, luckily the deans of the school put that one to bed. I self-accelerated through law school, and then kept going from there. But I guess I'll just wrap that with, shortly after law school, I was given the opportunity through some rugby associates at law school, where I was introduced to this construction firm down in New York City. So we're based out of Westchester, out of Mamaroneck, but it's a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. So they were looking for other veterans to join the company. So about 4 years ago, I came down here and started working for the construction company. And now, yes, I'm the president of the company. I have a great partner and mentor that I work with every day. And we just, it's really a dream job where we get to build the infrastructure and new hospitals, renovations, all for the Department of Veteran Affairs. So not only do I get to work with a lot of veterans every day, but I'm improving the healthcare system, at least the facilities that our veterans interact with every day. And I think we all know, or if there's veterans listening, how bad the VA is. I can't help you with the nurses and the doctors, but I can make sure that the surgical lights and the equipment and the generators and everything else is running. Yeah, so
I mean, that's an important job.
yeah, yeah,
Well, first of all, I'm sorry that that happened to you. I can't even imagine how tough that must have been in the moment, but then in the months and years following, given just how people interpret things and, how you felt you were treated, how you were treated, everything like that. So I'm sorry that that happened. And I fully believe that these trials and tribulations and all of that stuff is just really good redirection for what you're meant to be doing. Like you just said, you have your dream job now. So on the ascent side of it, like you were at your lowest, you were divorced or getting divorced, you were probably in suspense with the police department, not knowing what was going on. What mindset did you have to get out of that depression, out of the gloom, to actually take steps forward? Because like I said earlier, I think that there are probably a few people watching who have been in either a similar situation or just feel similarly, whatever situation they're in. How did you get out of that?
sure. So, I'll say at the time, and I can't say whether what I did was right or wrong. I mean, looking back at it, I handled it the best way I knew how at the time. And a lot of it is, it's a day-to-day affirmation. You can't look at 6 months. You can't look at a year. I mean, I did do that sometimes. I'd be like, man, but it's really just a day-to-day, a refocusing of your energy, and then and starting to work on a plan. But I'll tell you, I was so adrift and lost. Luckily for me, I had a really good network. I am Christian. I have a great group of Christian friends. We meet together for the past, I think, since 2017, 2018, but we meet every Saturday for 2 hours. And a lot of it's law enforcement guys, some military, some are just electricians or guys from jujitsu, completely unaffiliated with the department. But my two closest friends there really helped me get through it, refocus, because you get so negative, you get so down, you think about, why did I do that? You start letting other people get to you. I cared about what people thought. It's super hard not to when you're at the gas station, you look at the news stack and you see your face and a clip from your body cam on the front page of the newspaper. And then you're looking at the guy like, oh man. But I'd say it was really, it was the support of my family, the support of my friends, the support of my faith, and then just that daily working and staying busy. I know some of the other guys who were suspended, and it's all they talked about. It's all they wanted to talk about. And it's like, man, if you keep talking about that, it's all about, the manifestation of what you want to do. And it's like, if you're just thinking negatively, you're not going to, your actions are going to be negative. Everything's going to be negative. So for me, it was really just those first initial steps, the acceptance of thinking, I'm not going to worry about how long this could take. The department's going to leave me in the dark. They're going to give me no support. They don't care. I don't know if I'm going to have arbitration in 3 months, in 2 years, in 5 years. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a goal. I'm going to look at where I want to be and what I want to do. And then every day I'm going to work towards that. And when these things pop up, then I'll deal with those as they come, with the department, with the discipline, with the interactions. So it really is a day by day. And I'll say, like, and I'm sorry. I just want to backtrack. I cared to, like, show everyone that I didn't care, that I was unfazed. So if people ask me, "Oh, how you doing?" I'd be like, "Oh, I'm great. I'm doing this. I'm doing this." Like, I was so driven to just prove a point that I didn't need APD and I didn't need, the police department. I didn't care that I was going to do better than I ever would have if I was a cop, which I think was a negative thing. And I don't think that was great to really care about. I mean, I think it's okay to be vulnerable and to talk to guys. I did within my group, but I just wanted to have this Teflon Don type of persona with anyone else out of the department. But it was also just because I was embarrassed, right? It's like, well, here I was, I don't want to say like a golden boy, but had a really great career. I had a lot of great relationships, and they're all gone. I mean, a lot of guys, I would say one of the toughest things there too was not being in the day-to-day interaction with my squad. That midnight squad was like my family. We've been through everything, every holidays, the tough times, the good times. And all of a sudden, no one reaches out to you. A few guys do, don't get me wrong, but the ones who you see at roll call, the ones who you see on the street, like those guys, you've lost that. And I think, maintaining those relationships, reaching out to guys, being unembarrassed about it, maintaining that positive attitude and having that goal that you work towards daily really helps focus and gets you through that dark time. And it does take time. It probably took me a year and a half to actually process and, one day be like, wow, I'm working towards something better and I'm going to keep on that path. And I mean, ultimately I was cleared of all charges. I was brought back to full duty. I went back to the range, did all my SOP catch up. But at the end of the day, I decided that I was going to leave the department and I wouldn't be returning.
Yeah.
So
And I want to point out too that you applied to law school while you were still a cop before all of this happened. So you were kind of already planning for what was ahead for you, which we always like to point out on this show how important it is to start planning before you even plan to leave. And so luckily you had that to fall back on once all of this happened. So good for you for doing that. And so faith, family, friends, huge support system. I agree with everything there. And then you were talking about setting a goal. So are you talking about a goal daily or are you talking about a long-term goal? What does that look like?
Um, right, sure. So I think it's really important, and it's something that I've shifted, especially since this incident. But setting those short term, your short term goal, your medium term goal, and then your impossible goal, right? So, like currently, right now, I have impossible goals that I set for myself in business. I have personal goals, impossible goals that I set for myself in my personal life. But then what that does, so for instance, right, I might not surprise anyone, but a lot of people in the construction field speak Spanish. So a lot of the laborers. So my impossible goal though is I want to be fluent in Spanish for a year. What these goals do, what the goals do is they will change your mindset to focusing what is the best thing to do when I set a goal. You might go in every day, or you might be suspended, and you're like, what am I going to do today? Am I just going to sit on the couch and my hardest decision of the day is going to be when I'm going to Grubhub for lunch and dinner, or when my wife and kids come home, or what, if you're single, like what video game am I going to play all day? Like, who knows? You should find a goal, what you want to do, set that goal, and it will change how your mind starts working, because now it's okay. Well, if I want to be fluent in Spanish by the end of the year, what do I have to do? Will Babbel be enough? Do I need a private tutor? Then you start to sketch out, how am I going to actually get to this goal? And then I'm going to work towards start achieving it. And then everything else kind of that isn't important in your life starts to take a back seat, and you start to not think about it because now your mind is prioritizing its pathways to achieving your goal. So I think it sounds like a little soapboxy, but yeah, but I always started small. I started small with goals, right? When I was a police officer, I was like, what am I going to do after I'm a cop? And I think a lot of cops ask this question, and all the cops joke, like, well, I don't want to be greeting guys at Walmart, right? With my pension and just like, or doing static security somewhere. Some guys like that. I could never do that. But like when I was a cop, that's why I started. So, well, what do I want to do? I want to be able to earn, quote unquote, passive income to supplement my pension, but not have to work a 9 to 5. So okay, well, how can I do that? So my short term goal was get my appraiser's license, get my real estate license, and then as I achieved those, I then saw and I said, well, if I'm an attorney, I can do all of that, and have the diversification and skill set, and then I can just do some real estate closings or do whatever, and I'll reach my goal. So then I set that long term goal of I'm going to go to law school. And then I focused on how can I get to law school? I have to score good on the LSATs. My college transcript from Penn State is my college transcript. There's nothing I can do about it now, but how can I improve my extracurriculars? Like, what would I need to get into law school? And then once in law school, what's the quickest way to get out of here? And that would be self-accelerating. But at the time, it was how can I get through law school, not fail, and still be a cop? And that would be the 75% program, stay as a midnight detective, and move my life around what I need to do. So all that planning and processing and goal setting stays the same. It's just you really need to sit down, clear your mind, and think about what you need to, what your goal is now changing. Because my goals changed in a heartbeat. It wasn't studying and becoming a detective anymore, and then figuring out law school. It was if the police department never comes back into my life, and I do end up being terminated, even as low as the percentage was, what am I going to do next, and where am I going to be?
Well, that's a good segue into my next question is you're a cop, you don't know what your future looks like. Maybe you're about to retire, maybe you get suspended. How the heck do you figure out what you want to do or what your passion is?
Yeah, that's
That's
a
like
great
the
question,
ultimate
right?
question. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, guys always joke around with me and they'll be like, "Oh, what do you got going on now? Like, what new business did you start?" And I'll tell you, it was like throwing darts at a board when I really got going. And my father was in construction. He was a real estate appraiser. He worked for New York State. I had a lot of good influences around me. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew that I really liked real estate and I liked building things, but it's still from 2017, 2018, from when I started investing in real estate and uh, renovating multifamily properties and putting them into my portfolio, till, I mean, 4 years later is when when I entered into general contracting. Um, so it's like, find out what you like. But I mean, I really liked real estate. So then I learned, okay, well, how can I evaluate real estate? How do I know what's a good deal? How do I fix things up? How do I build a network of contractors or plumbers, electricians? Who's going to property manage these when I can't get there? So you start focusing there. And then I realized, okay, well, I can help myself become an appraiser. I can help myself if I become a real estate agent. So all these things. And then that's what led me to law school. Like I said before, I was like, okay, well, I'll just go to law school. And then law school opens up a whole lot of things. I mean, personally, I do say I think 1 out of 100 attorneys is useful. But it does, it puts a great mark on your resume, and it does rewire. The most beneficial thing about law school is it retrains you how to think. Not retrains you, it trains you in a entirely different thought process. Which, yes, a lot of it is liability focused, which I don't think is great for business. But it was great on my resume, right? And so that was ultimately where I got to. And then when I got this offer from the construction company, it was okay. Well, now I need to like figure out how I take my residential experience and build that into commercial and translate that into commercial experience. And that was just a lot of hours of hard work.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like from everything you've said that you've always been, or at least maybe since the Marine Corps or whatever, you've always been disciplined. You've always been ambitious. You've always had a really great work ethic. And that has guided you through everything that you've done. What skills, hard or soft, from law enforcement have you brought to this private sector now that you're in it? And especially now that you're president of a company, like that's a big deal. So what did you bring with you?
Yeah. So I would say, and I think cops always undervalue this, is your ability to work long hours with minimal, I guess, discomfort, right? And so I bring that work ethic from the police department here, and it's translated, through all my jobs, but um, and it does give you a certain lack of empathy, but I'll work usually about 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and that's my like active hours. But then if something happens at the job, and I have to ask a super to stay late, it's no skin off my back. Be like, oh, okay, I'm just working second shift, right? I'm working 4 to 12 today. And then I go down to the job site and I'll stay there, bring coffee, whatever, and hang out. But I really take those just that squad mentality, that family mentality that the police department has combined with the work ethic. And I try to bring that here and emulate with my own staff. So they see, hey, if we're going to endure hardships, we're at least going to do it together. Right. I won't be sitting home doing nothing while you're, standing outside watching a crane rig something into place and it's 17 degrees in New York. But I really think, and it's something I tell to the cops that I still know, we worked 80 to 100-hour weeks and you gave no thought to it. You would work midnight to 8 a.m., get up and go down to court at 9:30. You go home, take maybe a shit shower, shave, and a 30-minute nap. And then you go right back down to court for an arraignment or a preliminary hearing. You'd be at court for an hour or two. You'd come back, you get another 2 hours of sleep, maybe wake up, go to the gym, and then you go in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to work an overtime shift into your regular shift, and you work from 4 to 8 a.m. And if you come into the corporate world and the private world, you will see how lazy and entitled the average person is. And if you just simply bring that one thing, which is the work ethic and the ability to show up, everything else will follow. There is no doubt. If you just show up, apply yourself, you're going to outpace 95% of the 9 to 5ers. I mean, I don't mean to disparage the private world. There's phenomenal people here. But I think a lot of cops get worried about leaving the W-2, leaving this security of it. Life's going to be over. This pension. I mean, I'll tell you what, New York revised this pension, the tier 6, it sucks. There's no reason, despite love of the game, to stay for a pension in the police and fire retirement. But yeah, you work half as hard as you worked as a cop, you're going to be successful, more than successful. The money will come always.
Yeah. Also, looking back now, despite everything that happened, is there anything that you really, what did you like about how you made that transition out of law enforcement? And what would you recommend to others to not do when they choose to do the same thing?
Sure. I mean, I really, I would say that what I'm most proud of is that I didn't stop growing and I didn't stop learning. It was hard. I was depressed. I can admit that now that I'm through it on the other side. I lost a marriage over it, not directly because of it, but it definitely didn't help. I don't think I comported. I'm sorry, the positives first. But I do
We
like
can
that I
end on
didn't
the
stop.
positives if you want.
Yeah, I know, right?
Maybe that's better.
Yeah. But yeah. Let me do the negatives, right? We'll backtrack that. But the negatives are definitely, the fact that I did let it get to me. I let the public perception get to me. There were times where I thought I was less than. I got down on myself. I'd be depressed. I don't think I handled it well in my personal relationships, specifically my marriage. It was more of a catalyst for things that were already there. But it's one of those regrets that I kind of still have. It takes two to dance, but still, I wish I had been more immune to that. And just even in my thoughts, that I didn't care so much about what other people thought. And it was really difficult. But but overall, the positive things is I'm really happy I continued to set goals, to keep working. Within a week of being suspended, and I was suspended with pay, but within a week, I was like, I have to stay busy. I went and worked out at my buddy's horse farm, digging and building horse fences and building horse enclosures and stalls and everything. And I just went to work on the farm during the day. I'd go there from 7 to 4 and just do whatever he needed done on his farm, walk the fence line. And then in evenings, I would go to my buddy's pizza shop and I'd literally make pizzas till 11 o'clock at night. And then I'd go home, sleep, and get up and do it all over again. But maybe that's not the best, but it worked for me. And it was
Kept
great.
yourself
Right?
distracted.
Kept me distracted. That's what I'm really
Yeah.
proud of. And then, like I said, it's not so much about figuring out 100% what you want to do, but doing something and actively working towards that goal. And eventually, and I promise the pieces do come together and you'll be exactly where you want to be.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it might not be in your timing, but it is always in the right timing.
Right. 100%. Not to get too biblical on it, but I
Yeah,
will say, yeah, without a doubt, yeah, you can't trust in your own timeline, right? So,
exactly. Yeah. Well, before we go, do you have any last minute advice for any police officers who are considering leaving or have left law enforcement and just don't know where to go with their life?
I would say just I don't have any different advice except to just recap. The most important thing I think is set your goals. Doesn't matter what, but find something to strive towards. Trust in your work ethic. Don't be afraid to leave the W-2 and the pension. And yeah, just remember family, faith, friends. That's it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on to Cop to Corporate, Matt. Great story.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
This video was recorded and produced by Just Talk Studios, the premier video podcasting studio in Bellevue, Washington. Visit justtalkstudios.com to learn more and book your session today.